I am a proud young Irishman. In Ulster's hills my life began, a happy boy through green fields ran, and kept God's and man's laws. But when my age was barely 10, my country's wrongs were told again by tens of thousands marching men, and my heart stirred to the cause.
Aaron Lalshaw, Jaiha Blurahan, Hussey and Stock Agris, a Kesh Fada. Markimi, Nero Illavawine Ogin, V Status Palatua Uin.
Today, the 27th of October, marks the 40th anniversary of the beginning of the 1980 hunger strike.
In their statement, the prisoners in the H-Blocks of Long Kesh and Armagh declared that they were embarking on a hunger strike to assert their right to be recognised as political prisoners.
We are political prisoners, unbowed and unbroken.
The hunger strike was the culmination of 4 years of protest, both inside and outside.
Thousands of people took to the streets. They did so without fear, often facing harassment and attacks by the RUC.
From the small protests in Waterloo Square, led by Barney McFadden, to the mass demonstrations in Dublin, people across Ireland and beyond raised their voices in support of the prisoners.
Many of those to the fore of the H-Block Armagh national movement were targeted and executed by loyalist paramilitaries, including in 1980 Miriam Daly, John Turnley and Ronnie Bunting.
Bernadette Devlin McAliskey was also shot and seriously wounded in January 1981.
Despite the best efforts of many people campaigning on behalf of the prisoners, the British government refused to reinstate political status.
Republican prisoners had been granted political status in May 1972.
This was achieved through a hunger strike by the prisoners in Crumlin Road Jail.
Those interned in Long Kesh and Armagh had political status.
In 1976, the British government embarked on a strategy designed to suppress and defeat Republican resistance.
Central to that strategy was the criminalisation of Republican prisoners.
So, on March the 1st, the British government took a decision to end political status.
The prisoners were viewed as the soft underbelly of Republican resistance.
If the Republican prisoners could be forced into accepting criminal status,
then the wider struggle would be severely undermined. Jilty na Kimi Palatura a Crumu.
Republican prisoners refused to yield. We pledged that by every means possible we would resist all attempts to criminalise us.
We would not be used to undermine the legitimacy and the integrity of the struggle to end British rule in Ireland.
In September 1976, after his conviction in the Diplock Court, Kieran Nugent refused to wear the prison uniform.
He declared on behalf of us all that we were political prisoners.
He was taken naked to his cell. He wrapped himself in a blanket to assert the right to be treated as a political prisoner.
Marshin V. Agwads na Pluda Hosia.
The blanket protest had begun.
I'll wear no convict uniform, nor meekly serve my time, that Britain might brand Ireland's fight 800 years of crime.
Over the coming months and years, he was joined by other comrades.
In the H-Blocks in Armagh, the protesting prisoners were subjected to a coordinated campaign of deprivation, isolation and brutality. From solitary confinement to mere searching, physical assaults, forced washes, the prison administrations went about their task to break the prisoners and the protest in a sustained and systemic way.
Nelson Mandela once said of his imprisonment and its oppressive regime that it was designed to break one's spirit and destroy one's resolve. That was at the core of the H-Block and Armagh regimes and at the behest of the British government.
All this to a backdrop of a wall of silence, little or no interest from the media. The Relatives Action Committee, made up of mothers, sisters, wives, friends of the protesters, was the first and inspirational collective effort to highlight the abuses and denial of rights.
Their task was to break the wall of silence, to stop the brutality and highlight that the prisoners, their relatives, should be treated as political prisoners.
This was women taking the lead and showing how active leadership works and can make a difference.
In Derry, 3 women, Mary Nellis, Catherine McCann and Teresa Deary, stood outside St Eugene's Cathedral, dressed only in blankets, simply asking the question, "Do you care?"
It became one of the great symbols of people standing up and calling out for justice. Cardinal Tommaso Fake said it was actions such as this informed him in his journey, in his quest for truth.
He visited the H-Blocks in July 1978. He likened the conditions to that of the sewers of Calcutta.
He observed that the men he spoke to did not strike him as criminals.
The wall of silence came tumbling down.
Despite his efforts and the great work of the national H-Block Armagh movement, the Thatcher government refused to yield. The British government declared that they had no political prisoners.
In August 1980, after a series of meetings and dialogue, Cardinal O'Fee reached the conclusion that Thatcher accepted no other viewpoint but her own.
The British government refused to accept the reality that the conflict in Ireland was fundamentally political, and that the prisoners in Long Kesh and Armagh were prisoners of that conflict.
For the prisoners now was the time for decisive action. All else had been tried, but to no avail.
The blanket protest had lasted for over 4 years. The No Wash protest from 1978. In both prisons, the prisoners had withstood years of isolation and brutality.
We were supportive of the many people and the many attempts made to find a resolution.
We had shown patience and resolve.
We had listened and engaged with our political leaders on the outside to find other ways to seek resolution.
Our 5 demands were basic.
We did not seek victory, only resolution.
We now contended that there was no other way forward.
Now was the time for hunger strike.
That morning, the 27th of October at 8:30 a.m, as breakfast was being put into their cells,
Bretton Hughes, Tom McFeely, Sean McKenna, Leo Green, Tommy McCartney, John Nixon and Raymond McCartney refused to take it.
each of them declared that they were on hunger strike to secure their right to be treated as political prisoners. VMR Erstock Acris.
The 1980 hunger strike had begun.